interface if we're going to plan on using the platform. So,
Yeah.
like right now, you can look in the upper right hand corner. It has a little button that says live.
Mm-hmm.
That literally means from this point on, we are now recording. So it's
Oh, I
recording
can
the
do push.
video and the audio. I can give you the link over here in the comment tracker where the YouTube page is, where you can actually see us real time doing this.
Oh, okay.
And that's my personal web.
I need to throw on some light then, cause my junk is like my screen's all dark.
That's cool.
You know, it ain't giving me no options to do that yet. Trying to expand the screen so that it does.
It should be on the well, it's up
Normally,
on.
like when you go over to like the upper right, the little thing comes up to ask you if you want to like enhance the image and all that other
Mm-hmm.
trash. It ain't giving me none of them options. Whatever, man. We can get to the point or whatever. Let me see if I
Yeah.
can get some extra. I ain't got a whole lot of light options up in this line, but I'll probably just cut to the chase because I'm like mad beat. It's been a long day. I'm running on about 4 hours of sleep. Let me get this. Oh, man, dead mosquitoes and stuff in here.
What's going on?
Nah, I'm trying to lift this lampshade off this light to get a little more light in here, and I lifted up and there's all these dead mosquitoes in there. That didn't do nothing. Oh well, it is what it is. I look all like Wesley Snipes. That's fine.
Yeah. You cool?
Yeah,
Whatever.
man. So what's up?
It ain't a whole lot, man. Just been trying to think about. I've been thinking about a lot of. There's so much stuff going on my mind right now because I got so much things going on. But
Your schedule's got AIDS.
I'm trying to focus on what needs to actually happen in the next couple of weeks. So it's like writing the book is going slow, man. Because it's like I hit these pockets, and so I'll start working on something else to keep myself busy.
No, I know it's yeah.
And the
Same deal here.
problem with that is, by the time I get interested in that, and then that juice will run out, and I'll come back to stuff. So I'm trying to bang it out, and it's like literally, I'm like, dude, I really don't know what else. My the problem I'm having is a plausible motivation for the characters interacting with each other. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a cohesive introduction story for all these different characters.
Uh-huh.
The downside is I know the point of it is to also explain this event that is fake.
Okay.
So when I write my characters, I'm trying to come up with the dialogue and the direction for what I want it to look like so that you can kind of get a feel of what these characters are. I'm trying to make these characters really real. Maybe I'm just working too hard with it. I don't know. Because I'm like, maybe I'm overly descriptive or something, but it's like certain things when I read it, I'll go back and I'll say, just rings false to me. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's on some old Jack o' lantern type stuff.
Yeah. I
You
hear what you're
know,
saying. I hear what you're saying because I know I've hit some bumps with my stories where I'm like, am I over analyzing this or is it the basic concept needs more meat on its bones? You know, it's a tough thing to figure out sometimes, man.
because at the end of the day, that's what I'm the most concerned about. I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, I want it to be a believable, passable story, but I don't want it to overbog it with details to the point where you just like, yeah, this is like listening to how my mom got married to my dad. I don't want to listen to this. So it's like, all these. I've got this incident, and I got incidents that lead up to incidents, and then I gotta simplify a lot of stuff and just go straight forward.
Hmm.
But I'm afraid I don't want it. to be a real comic book. I want it to be a commentary more about how messed up self-help actually is.
Mm.
How we lie to ourselves about a lot of ridiculousness, but at the end of the day, we can lie all you want to. The truth is the truth. And
That's
sometimes
real.
the truth is a whole lot uglier. And I'm trying to do that in this next story where I'm trying to introduce malice. I'm talking a lot about there's an official story about what happened in his home country, and then there's the truth.
Hmm.
I'm gonna tell both of them in the same story why I'm having him break into this top secret facility and do all this crazy stuff. But the whole point behind the story is to say that none of these characters, none of this, what the official story is not real. This is the what the Avengers really are. I'm basically saying that the Avengers and characters like that, Justice League, all of those are freaking liars. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's not that easy to assemble a group of people to come together and do something that is going to be beneficial to mankind.
That's real. I mean, that's
And yeah, so it's such a big cop. What I want to do, if I had a chance, I want a machine gun like all the superhero team books because I hate them. I've only seen one that was actually written well, and that was X-Men. So
yeah.
back when Claremont was on it. So
Yeah, it's kind of like how I am about sidekicks and stuff.
yeah,
I don't get it. Everybody's always like, they need a Nightwing movie. I'm just like, not only is Nightwing a really broke back name, but it's just like
yeah,
Robin was invented like back in the times where the comic code was slamming down on companies and they needed to have somebody for Batman to talk to so he wasn't this lonely, angry dude sitting in a cave in a bat suit in
yeah.
bondage clothes. They needed it to be a little more loose, even though the comics code people try to accuse him of being all, you know, homoerotic and all this stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just like a lot of this stuff just really bothers me over the years where it's just like, y'all have done invented like 14 bat characters running around. It's like, Batman's just not that dude that needs that when you stay true to his character. So I can understand that. I can understand how doing a you're kind of doing what Alan Moore did for characters for the whole team, and kind of saying to get a bunch of people because it's like the world can't even unite on certain real issues that we got to deal with. You know what I mean? I mean, y'all can't even get together and decide whether climate change is real. So what makes y'all think y'all gonna get together with a bunch of superpowers and go out beating fools up?
Or like even to the concept of how you gonna help me as a superhero and you can't even help yourself. And that's the whole concept behind rehab. These are dudes that we're literally putting our livelihoods in the eyes of. And I bounce back and forth between for exercise for fun. I mess with that Batman stuff
Yeah.
because I want to. That's my love letter to like the Batman franchise. Batman is this not this overly complicated, brooding, dark character. He's a nut that loves his job. That's
Mm.
really he loves his job. I want to do it and make it that simple. One, Batman is mentally damaged permanently. There is no hope for this guy. Thank God he's on our side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Secondly, he likes beating the crap out of people and doing detective work. He literally can live out all his fantasies that he has. He can literally make love to Catwoman and lock her up shortly after. What kind of job? Nobody out there. Oh, my parents. Batman doesn't care. Honestly, at this point, Batman is almost, according to like real life, Batman will be almost 50. Just by
Yeah.
going through comic book. About 50 years old, he ain't worried about it. His mom and dad is no longer the primary motivation for why he does what he does.
Yeah. It might be in there, but if at this point he's on that junk, he ain't really worried about it. He used to want to party. Now he's on that junk.
Yeah, it's literally like at this point, I want to leave a big flaming pile of poop on the bag of all fanboys of the Batman franchise. Just to say, you know what? You really think you understand Batman. You
I'm
have no
sitting there
idea
like I'm
what
gonna do
you're
a
doing.
live thing.
Yeah, congratulations. And then afterwards, I stand up and say, sexual chocolate, and fart and walk off the stage. Because that's what I got to say. You
That's
want to know why
awesome.
Batman does what he does? You really want to know why? Because Batman doesn't need Robin. The only reason he kept those there was to tell him that he was insane.
Pretty
He
much.
needed he needed a benchmark based on my life, man, because it's starting to make way too much sense to me.
He's basically American Psycho.
Yeah, it's basically like I keep you here, I have Robin here because the mind of a child is gonna always tell me the truth. If I go over the edge, that kid's gonna look at me like this dude is nuts. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
was trying to help y'all be free because honestly, I'm happy as a lark all the time. I'm brooding. I brood when I don't have anything to do.
Mm. I ain't got nothing else to conquer. I got money. I got ladies. I ain't beat nobody up in a week.
And I'm really then I go back to that Dakota Kenny thing and establish him in the 50s. He's gonna have the wackest name ever as a sidekick slash superhero that's part of this global Sentinels group. His name is Major Mental. He's gonna have this, like they make this fake helmet with antennas off of both sides, like Ant-Man kind of looks like. And his whole concept, he doesn't need any of this crap, but the government gives it because in the 50s they want to give this. Oh, he's got a major brain behind him and he's robotic. Really, what happened is he got his powers by accident. You find out that Major Mental is actually the General Dakota.
That sounds like a cool
General
kid
Dakota.
name.
Literally, like
I
he's
think
the wackest.
that's like a cool.
He's gonna even have the old Jack Kirby red and blue splotch. You know, the different isometric prints on the belt. I
Oh
can see his
Lord.
helmet.
Oh Lord. That sounds like a cool kid alias.
I'm Major Mental, and
Mhm.
like Major Mental and Ultiman, and they fight. They fight a living asteroid.
Oh my Lord.
To Earth.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like I don't know, man. It sounds like you kind of got your theme tight. I think you got a ton of ideas, and you might just have to be real with yourself and just be your own editor for a little bit. And there might just be some elements that are really cool and really awesome moments that you want to throw in there that you might have to just go, but is this advancing the story? You know what I mean? And I've kind of had to do that stuff when I used to mix music, and I really learned when I was learn from other people, and I learned once that you mix music kind of like if you think of sound visually, it kind of looks like a city skyline. Some buildings are really tall, some buildings are really short, some buildings are skinny, some buildings are wide. There's all these different shapes. And the dude was saying like that's kind of how you want your EQ to be when you're mixing down a track. He was like, if you're gonna have the bass be the driving thing of the song, you can't have everything playing at the same velocity. Something's got to be the focal point. Something's got to kind of keep the rhythm. Something's got to kind of keep the melody. And then something's got to kind of keep the beat. And then you got to be able to fit the vocals right in the center and have them be on top of everything. And I think it might just be like that, like with your comment, because I know there's been things in Extraordinaries I wanted to throw in there, like some cool scene or some idea that I wanted to put in there. And then I'm like, well, in the direction that I'm going now and the way that I'm refining the story, that just don't make sense. And it's one of the Michael Bay things where you just throw it in there because you want it to be cool, but it's just, I'm not saying you got, whack stuff in your story. You just might have more than you need or whatever in there. So I don't know, just always go back to your theme. Always go back to, is this scene helping to advance the story of telling, the story of an Avengers type team being a bunch of liars, or just like how you're lied to by the media, whatever you want to say. I would just make sure you always come back to that, and then just be willing to trim the fat of what doesn't work. Because I know one of the things that I'm challenged right now to change in my baby project, working on silence, now that I finally got that kind of background concept with the smart land thing that's working, is I had originally a long time ago just kind of generically written a scene where I thought, wouldn't it be awesome if there was like a heist, like Heat or something, or like the beginning of Dark Knight, if there was like this bank heist. When the people got there, there was already somebody there robbing the bank, and then it turned into Hard Boiled. That was kind of my idea, and I've been carrying that around since like the 90s, dude. So when I first started really taking silence seriously and writing the first draft in like 2008 or 9, I wrote in this scene where two of the characters kind of, they don't get framed for murder, but they get in a position where they end up becoming kind of prime suspects of somebody who knows something, because they go into this convenience store and the guy that owns the place is normally mean to them, and they're like, he's not even here. And then this dude comes popping out the bathroom. Like the dude that's behind the counter, they go up to him like, where's the Korean guy, basically. And the dude can't work the register, and you kind of get this feel through the whole scene like something's off. Like just something ain't right about this dude. And then in the middle of them talking, the dude like gives them a ridiculous amount of change back, and he just finally gets the register going. He don't even really know what he's doing. This dude pops out of the bathroom with a shotgun on, some like Samuel Jackson coming to America, get the money out, and it ends up becoming this big crossfire where the dude kind of counter pulls a gun, and the panel description that I had written was when the guy behind the counter pulls his gun, it's an overhead shot, and you see that he's standing behind the counter, and the Korean dude's body's on the ground. And it becomes this big old shootout or whatever, where this dude was already there robbing the place when the kids walked in. Like when these two teenage boys walked in. And it was going to become this big scene where they end up leaving the place, and they leave the graffiti cans there. Like one of the guys, because the cops coming, he throws them up on the roof and like, we'll come back later. And they end up coming back later, and it's now a crime scene and all that. So they get caught up in this thing where like the cops are kind of getting on to them and thinking that they might be Silence the terrorists and all this stuff. But what I ended up doing was in Extraordinaries, the idea worked better because the stranger is blackmailing Frank to help him basically steal this money, because his whole thing is he basically tells Frank, I know your secret, but you no longer have the luxury of not knowing mine. And Frank's like, what? And he's like, well, basically, I live off the grid. I don't exist. But now that you know who I am, I can't let you just go. And basically he lets him know up front, I came here to blackmail you. You're going to help me rob this bank. I've already made precautions to dismantle the primary security system. And basically, if you help me do this, because I know you're a superpower, and I know that you could use it to destroy this vault and I can get in, basically I'll exchange, your help for not telling people who you really are and that you killed your own wife on accident. And that's kind of the whole conflict of the story. And the robbery scene worked better because the crew that ends up becoming Frank's crew is just a bunch of dudes that they basically are just a bunch of anarchists. And they're not actually there to rob the bank. They're like, we're just trying to destroy all the establishments. We see that money runs this town, so if we shut down the biggest bank in this town that we know there's mob money in here and all this other stuff, then we can start getting to the heart of the city. So the night that they're there, they basically break in, and they're like, we're going to wait here for a couple hours and then do this. And then Frank and the dude end up showing up, and it just ends up being a more interesting bank heist because it's people with superpowers, not people shooting guns, which we've seen a million times.
Yeah.
So what that means is I'm going to have to find something new in that conflict when I do Silence, because I can't do two stories where you got, a robbery that just by coincidence two people show up. So you might have some things like that. I know that's a lot to get around the camel's hump and explain something that's simple, but there just might be some scenes where you're like, some of this I'm going to have to trim to keep it really short, and find a way to constantly drive that Truman Show aspect of like, this is all a TV show, or this is all being staged, or whatever it is, or showing it in a way where it's like you don't fully reveal it to the audience, but something's always kind of off. Or maybe you do reveal it to the audience and you kind of let them see what it would look like and what it would take to put like an X-Men crew together, an Avengers crew together with all these misfits that don't get along, and how fake it would have to be. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, how forced. So I don't know, man. I mean, all your ideas, I love them. I mean, they're really awesome ideas. It just might be for the core story, you might have to save some stuff for later. I don't know. I mean, I don't really
Yeah,
know.
I get to that point because I'm like, I like the characters more than I like the story itself.
Yeah,
That's the problem. I'm like, the characters themselves, I want to make them as fleshed out and as real, as believable as possible. But at the same time, in order to do that, it's gonna take forever. That's my beef, man. I'm like, dude, I can write. I know what I want to write. I know how I want to write it. I know what I want to say. It just takes forever and a day to actually get there.
no, I feel
I
you.
struggle. The dialogue, I can knock dialogue. I can literally write a whole script of like 4 and 5 part dialogue where 4 people just talking in a room. And it'll
Yeah,
be really interesting dialogue. The problem is I just don't want to do it. It's one of those things that I've got to train my body
yeah.
every day to just sit down and do that. And it's
I
just,
I totally feel you, dude, because I'm the exact opposite of you. Is I sit here before I even write the script, and I think of the whole comic like I just walked out of a movie,
yeah,
and I can see it visually. But then when I sit down and have to write dialogue and make it sound like two different voices going back and forth, and not writing it like I'm talking in a poetry slam, and like coming up with fake names of corporations and people, dude, I struggle. And I get to the point where like I feel like my mind gets fatigued like really fast. Like I feel like I can do it for like 10 minutes and then I need like a 30-minute break. And then I come back and it takes me 20 minutes just to figure out where I was at. And then by the time I put in another 10 minutes, I'm like, dude, it's been 2 hours. I ain't written nothing but like 3 panels, you know? I had that issue today because I made some progress with extraordinaries, but the problem that I'm having with adding these pages in these last 5 is it's kind of like the whole thing's like a, I don't know, man, it's like a blanket or a tapestry or something. It's like it's laying out flat like taunt on somebody's bed, and you tug it in one area, it pulls everything else. So every time I add something or add a character or add a change, it seems like it affects what a logical reaction would be somewhere else.
yeah.
So I'm kind of gotten it down to where I don't have any more instances where it's going to affect the story per se. But
Mm-hmm.
I found things like I had 2 different, like when I wrote in this new character, Lyle, he's only in like a matter of pages. When I wrote him in, he kind of ended up doing what I had intended, another character that's just supposed to be a brief comedy relief. It's like an old dude that lives down the hall from Frank's apartment complex, and Frank's always trying to get to come out to church, and the dude's always asking him these over-the-top paranoid questions. So, like, the dude was kind of written in to be this character that, as comic relief, was constantly asking Frank about, like, coming up to him and basically saying, like, now, I ain't no Bible thumper, but I hear all this Superman crap in the news, so I started buying guns because if I see one of them extraordinaries, I'm going to waste them, you know? And kind of like in a comical way, he was adding conflict to like a reason why Frank wouldn't be honest. But now that I kind of took some of your advice and started writing this new stuff, he's less and less necessary. So I either got to change his scenes or find a way to make his scenes more in depth in the sense of just more grounded so that it's not redundant, it's reinforcing. So, because like what I actually came up with today was pretty good, because what I realized is I didn't have to write so much in the new pages as much as I did have to change a little bit of dialogue. Like some of the dialogue was a little generic, but so what I ended up doing was technically at the end of the first book, if you will, I introduced in the last couple of pages the character Burns and the other 2 people he runs with. He basically is the dude that was on like his sister put him on, his twin sister put him on like a scare tactic show. He's like this down and out dude who don't have a job. He goes on one of these scare tactic type shows, and you don't see any of this. This is all explained in dialogue, not in exposition, but in dialogue. He basically, his sister put him on one of them prank shows like Scare Tactics. They do something to make him think something happens. He has an emotional moment, freaks out, discovers he's got these pyrokinesis, whatever issues, and ends up burning all these people on the set alive, including the host. Including the host, which is basically like an Ashton Kutcher parody.
Yeah.
So basically, I had written in that this like kind of mob of people. I kind of like wrote in this lynch mob of people that their whole thing is like, I wrote them in kind of like a bunch of Republican protesters, if you will, talking all this, right to life, and we need to stomp out the extraordinaries, and almost just kind of like reminded by one of the old videos of like back in the day when they were talking about we don't want niggers in our school, and we're good Christian people, we don't want niggers in our school, that kind of thing. So what I ended up doing to add scope to that is rather than writing them in as a bunch of rednecks that was too easy, I got to kind of come up with a background for them. I was really kind of inspired by like the Pinkertons or like the Gestapo or something. And I kind of changed some of the dialogue, just very little, like a sentence or two. I changed some of the dialogue to be more specific in the very first interaction, the early, because it used to be the first page was Frank sitting in bed at night watching the Will O'Malley show with Michael Morris and him arguing about whether the government should get involved and start regulating extraordinaries. So I basically kept the dialogue the same, but I made Michael Morris reference this new organization that I came up with that's kind of pseudo-government run. I'm probably going to write it in like they're a bunch of, I don't know, hard-hitting dudes with resources that the government basically hires out. They're not like full-on, like, they're kind of like if FEMA was like armed,
It's like the Gestapo. That's literally what happened.
Yeah, pretty much. They're the Gestapo meet the Pinkertons. So basically, it's like the government has hired these dudes, and they're called the SCCS, which is the super abled crisis control service. They have the nerve to call it a service. But what it is they're intended, like it's written in a little bit that they're kind of intended to just be these people, kind of like the reserves. They're just there in case crap hits the fan. They're not really supposed to engage or do anything. They're like the Air Force. Like we don't really do nothing. But the story explains how, because there's money in it and all this other stuff, a lot of these dudes start becoming corrupt. And I try to, like, there's one of the lines that Frank shares about the city when he's walking in his monologue, that the panel description was two cops beating this dude up. And what I was able to do was change. I was able to consolidate two panels into one. Where, like, basically there's a scene where it's like in this page there's three big long panels, and as Frank's walking, something more of the story's being told in the background. Like he passed a business that has a sign up basically saying like, thanks for 30 years of business, kind of showing you all the mom and pop places are going out of business as Silverman Realty's buying up all this place and building casinos and strip clubs. But in that background, there's two homeless dudes like fighting over a space on the sidewalk to sleep. Some like Randolph and Mortimer Coming to America type stuff. So basically, they're like in the background, like fighting over a place laying down on the concrete. And one of those panels, I changed it to, rather than, because I had another panel that was similar. It was like Frank walking past another abandoned business, and I'm like, why do that twice? So I consolidated the two panels and then changed one to where it was a dude outside of a casino using his powers to like panhandle. They play a game when they move the pea in the cups.
I know what you're talking about.
The little rock in the cups.
Three-card Molly.
Yeah. He's like doing that in the air, like juggling objects or whatever, like with telekinesis or whatever. And in the panel, he's basically doing that while two officers of the SECS are coming up to question him. And then 2 pages later, when Frank is making his comment, he says something on the lines of, he's talking about all this, how they used to have hope in changing the neighborhood. And then he has this line where he says, but then he says something about like how we saw the something like the loving arm of God swing slower than the cold reality of a wooden nightstick or something like that. And it's like a vignetted image, and it was supposed to be two cops like beating the dude. Like you see them just kind of beating down on the panel with the nightsticks down, and at most all you see is like a dude's hand, like he's like like on the Joker coming up at it, like he's just like, you know, stop. Like you don't even see the dude get beat. I tried to really do the closure, less is more thing in the panel description. Yeah. So what I decided was, rather than just making them regular beat cops, why not make them SCCS soldiers?
Yeah.
And so I'm doing little things like that. And what I decided was this character Lyle. Originally, I wrote him in about 2-3 weeks ago as a character to show the effect it's had on Frank's community and on his church, that he's gotten comfortable with the moral compromise. And his moral compromise are these little white lies that he's told. And the very first white lie that he told really was that he just came back from Africa on some of my wife's dead, but I'm not really going to tell you how it happened. I'm going to make up a Shane story and pop Otis in his knee. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's kind of what Frank is, literally just pulled a Shane. That's pretty much what he's done. He didn't kill his wife on purpose like Shane did Otis, but he accidentally destroys everything, wipes out a whole African village, kills his wife in the process, and comes back on some just like the militiamen shot at us and she gone. We buried her over there. You know what I mean? So I changed Lyle's character. Well, my intention is to. I haven't done this yet. My concept is I think I'm going to change this Lyle character to, rather than being just this character that he keeps asking Frank what's really going on, and Frank avoids him throughout the story. Because there was already some places where Frank is checking his messages in his office, and he does this thing where he always says, I'll be doing my usual. Like he tells his secretary, I'll be doing my usual. But when we show him, he's just sitting in his office like with his feet up doing nothing. Like he just ain't got nothing ministry going on. Yeah. And so in this particular panel, rather than just a stranger leaving a message, I wrote in just one little bitty line of dialogue. Like Lyle was basically saying in the message, like, dude, why are you ducking my calls? It's like the third time I've called you. You didn't call me back in 4 days. You know, kind of thing. And basically I'm writing him into where, rather than him having this breakdown where he loses his faith and says all this critical stuff about Frank and kind of causes this dissension that allows other church members to follow him, I'm going to make him basically, I've written in very lightly that he's basically kind of saying to Frank, like, dude, like, what's really going on? Like, and then he gets to the point where he's like, what are you hiding? Or like, you know, like, what are you not saying? And then by the end, he's like, dude, what are you hiding? You're lying about something. And I'm going to kind of write him in as he may either become or be revealed that he is a member or supporter of this SCCS. And I'm either going to have him find out the truth about Frank or suspect it and threaten to go to them. And then that's going to answer my whole thing of the conflict. Because Frank at first is kind of like, I'm going to ignore the African dude. I don't know this dude. I'll just ignore him, write him off as some nutcase, and he'll go away. You know? And then when the guy pulls his power on Frank and reveals that he's an extraordinary too and injures Frank, Frank is like, okay, I can't deny this dude. I'll double cross him. Yeah. I know how powerful I am. He knows how powerful I am. I'll double cross him. I'll kill one more dude, and then I'm on my way. It's either lie or kill someone or both. And he's just like, I'll double cross this dude, and I'll never have to deal with him again. Well, the double cross goes bad because they show up to the bank and the other people are already robbing them. So basically, I'm writing in that the conflict will be that Lyle is closer to him inside of his church, and is like, man, I'll tell the church directly and put you on blast. And then the African dude's like, you don't do this robbery with me, I'm going to kill you. Or at least I'm going to give you so much pain, you're just going to have a psychotic breakdown. Then you're going to be nothing. And then I'm probably going to throw in there a little bit that his dude, this little guy, old guy Eddie at his apartment complex, either finds something out or something. So I just wanted there to kind of just be this sense of there's no area that Frank can turn to in his life and not expose that he's extraordinary, so he has to do this robbery. Like, the best thing I can do is do this robbery, and then I don't have to explain to anybody, and I can go just give Lyle and this other dude some kind of line. Because the African dude is seriously, he's like Storm Shadow. He's like basically honorable. He's just an anti-hero or anti-bad guy. He doesn't really care. He's just like, I gotta do what I gotta do. You know, I'll make you feel like, you know, you're stabbed in the heart right now. And for 20 minutes, if you want, I'll handle that. So I've actually made a lot of progress because it was dumb slow at work today. And so I got some new stuff written, and I basically changed the dialogue on about 3 or 4 pages. And then I have to write these extra 5 pages, but I'm going to edit the first 5 that I wrote to make Lyle not have like this crisis of faith, but more of a, our pastor's been lying to us. I need to expose him. Like, this is what's wrong with extraordinaries. This guy's an extraordinary, and he sat here and acting like a man of God. They are bad. So I want Lyle to kind of be like, because that's one of the things that Lyle asked him at first, is he's just kind of like, dude, Silverman Realty's like, that's the other thing. Lyle's the only one that knows Frank is not telling the church that Silverman Realty is offering them money to relocate. And Lyle's perspective is like, dude, we came here, like, frankly, Lyle and Frank are like, imagine if Louisville Church of Christ was like planted by like Caleb, and then Caleb was now Keith West. So Lyle is like, Frank, dude, we gave it 30 years. We worked at this neighborhood for 30 years. Maybe God has closed the door. Maybe this ain't where we need to be, and maybe we've been praying about this ministry, and maybe this money from Silverman Realty is like God's blessing in disguise. And maybe we need to move to another neighborhood. And Frank just has this stubbornness about him that kind of, because it's like his escape. It's like, I can forget about my wife, I can forget about what happened in Africa if I just bury myself in this project.
Yeah.
And it just, for the people like us, we'll pick up on all the undertones, like Frank started being all about work rather than faith and trust, and started being about all this other stuff rather than being redeemed. He started being about approval. And so I'm trying to write it in a way to where if you're secular, you'll get it without feeling beat over the face with the Bible. But if you're a believer, you'll pick up on the relatability of Frank's struggle.
Yeah.
And I think that'll make him more interesting as a villain, because I'm not trying to say some horrible thing about Christianity, but I just found him really interesting to do that with, for the overall theme, which is basically, we can add all this technology and all these better ways of living to the human condition. It's still the stinky old sinful nature human condition. You know.
Well, I mean, we're being real. You know, works without faith are lost. That's the first touch when you see Frank literally getting so obsessed with trying to. Excuse me. When he gets so obsessed with trying to fix this fledgling part of the city that's gone down, he gets more and more into doing that and less into the actual faith part of believing in God.
Yeah. It's almost like there's an irony to the fact that this dude is willing to break his back to save his neighborhood in the name of God, but he can't even tell he's telling like 98% of the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's a kind of oxymoron to it. That's what I'm saying. That like believers will read it, disciples will read it and pick it up and go, "Oh, I get it." You know? And it also helps because it kind of does 2 things going back to the theme. It plays off the theme of, you know, the human condition and how you can add to it and how we can have all these advances in technology and crap, but still we're just sinful by nature. We're going to lust by nature. We're going to be selfish by nature. You name it. But the idea behind Frank is he's like a repent away from being right.
Yeah.
Basically, like his heart is, I'm going to judge the world. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to do something about all the scum. I'm going to do something. He's taxi driver. He's basically he's like Travis Bickle with Magneto's powers.
Yeah.
So he's basically like, I'm going to do something about it, but I'm lonely, I'm kind of crazy, and I'm a little off my rocker. So basically, he's just
he has not asked for help from God. He's actually he got people where he's saying that I can do it myself. I don't need God.
Yeah. And a lot of that is rooted in this fact that he has grown comfortable over 30 years with keeping a secret. And it's almost that way where people can sit all, I've done it. You can sit all up in the church acting like everything is Captain Crunch and have all this mad secret sin in your life and then be mad at God when something goes bad or questioning something that goes on in your life, or just the simple fact that you can sit there and play church and not be open about nothing, not have no relationships, ain't shared your faith with nobody, ain't read your Bible, ain't doing nothing. Not that the work all relies on you. It's God who saves people, but it's just this idea that he kind of got comfortable hiding that sin. And it's in the same way dudes will be like living in pornography for like 9 months because they don't see the immediate consequence. It fixes their little comfort problem for a minute, and they can still kind of function. They can still go to church. They can still lead a Bible talk. They can still share their faith. But, they jerk it off every 24 hours. It's like, it's that kind of idea. So it's the idea is that Frank is like, literally, if you could talk some sense into him, he could turn it all around and be like, I was totally wrong, and be forgiven and move on. But that's his dilemma. I wanted him to be a bad guy that, like, at any moment this dude could turn. We could get through to this dude, but he lost it. It was just like, it's my job to judge the world, so I'm just gonna go around blasting people. So I hope all of that comes off, because when I talk about it, it sounds cohesive and it makes sense to me, because it's been swirling around in my head for 4 years. So it's kind of scary to think that I literally came up with the comic on my way to my 12-step group when I used to go on a Monday night, going to Middletown Christian at 8 o'clock, and I called my brother and was like, I just had this idea, and I was asking for his help, because originally, like, Frank's story got a little serious, but originally I wanted it to be like stupid, like the Tick. And that was why I called my brother. My brother was a big fan of the Tick cartoon and the live action show. So I called him and I was like, I'm trying to figure out a sensibility for this thing. And I went to Half Price Books that weekend before, and I had just bought American Splendor on DVD and watched it that weekend. And then driving to this thing on Monday, I just had this idea. I was like, what if I did a comic that was like X-Men or something, but was like the tone of American Splendor, like this ridiculous, melancholy look at just your average people. And I was just thinking it because I'm like, I'm on this way to this group where I'm going to sit here for an hour talking and listening to dudes that lives are just, it's like Fight Club. I mean, it's literally like you're sitting in there when a dude's like, you know what I mean? I was juicer, I was on steroids, and now my 2 grown kids won't even return my phone calls, They're going to have to go in and drain my pecs again. It was literally that, man. I go in and watch these 50-year-old men sit there and cry and be like, my wife already moved out, and my 18-year-old son, he's at college, but he won't call me back. And I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah. So it's kind of like this idea of just taking that kind of dark comedy stuff. And that's literally where the idea came from. And I was on my way to SA, and it just hit me. And I called my brother. It ended up being kind of late, because I ended up talking to him for like 20 minutes in the car or whatever about this idea. And I was like, why don't you write some stories? And my brother can be very like, none of his stuff, none of my dreams worked out, so there's nothing left for me. And I was kind of like, come on, nigga, just come work with me. Like, let's write some comics. And he never really bit the hook, but he gave me an idea for the story about, he actually was the one who gave me the story about the dude that worked, the janitor at their hospital, that had the ability to make people see reality however he wanted. And that's the one where the guy has the childhood friend that dies. Like, I came up with that part, but basically he came up with the whole idea of this guy that can make people see what he wants. He lives for a while, like getting people's approval, being the cool guy, but then one night the guy comes in and his wife's in a car accident, and before he can say what he needs to say to her, she dies. So this dude Gil makes him see his wife as alive, and he gets to pour his heart out and tell his wife what he really feels. And they were like arguing or something like that in the car when they wrecked. And there was an idea. So I tried to write that one from the heart, dude, because I was like, nigga, I know what it's like to be in the car just screaming, kids in the back seat, like what? Or just in the house, just like going at it, like, and dropping words, like, just shut up, if I shake you to death, if I go OJ on you. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I've broke out the C word on my wife before.
Wow.
I'm like, Not in a, like a
Really?
direct, not like in a Gone Girl kind of way, but like, you know what? You really acting like a C word right now. This is not cool. Like, you don't
For
have to.
real?
We've had some arguments, dog.
You know, there are a lot of I used to speak in subject, predicate, and linking verbs and curse words. I literally have the ability at any given second that I can speak 30 minutes worth of dialogue in absolute profanity. And I never use the C word ever. I hate it. I hate the sound of it.
Yeah,
It
it's
sounds
bad.
like really nasty. And I'm just like, no, I can't do it. And like my girl, she was in the vagina monologues or whatever,
Yeah,
and there's a part in the show where that's the only word they say for like the whole act, and it's said in a bunch of different ways, like a different vocal intonations, but it's so you take the power. It's kind of the way, like it's almost like a desensitization technique to try to get people to not be, kind of like how black people use the N word, and
yeah, like take its power away.
yeah, it takes the power away from the word and makes it beautiful.
It is. I mean, that is a like beyond. I can't think of another word in the English language that's more of a last resort word than that word.
Oh,
I mean, it's just like you want to insult a woman. I mean, you really want to insult
yeah,
a woman. You drop that word, and it means a whole. It's so much worse than calling the dude the D word. You're just like,
yeah,
it just has other connotations. Most of the time, when you use the D word, it basically means somebody's either being really unfair and mean to you, or
yeah,
or you say it like you're being an
sure,
idiot.
sure, yeah.
Like, don't be stupid right now, dude. Like, that's totally dumb for you to be, outside in shorts. Don't be such a, you know what. But yeah, man, we didn't had some fights. So when I wrote that story, man, I was like, I'm gonna pull this one straight from my experiences because I know all about it, man. I'm like, I've been there. I've been there. I've had some ugly ones with my wife, dude. I've had arguments, and this is before we even had kids, man. I've had arguments, dude. I got out the car and walked like miles in the snow.
Yep.
I remember, dude, like this was like 2007 or something. We was arguing about something. She got to the point where she was just being so obstinate and so unwilling to compromise or submit anything. I just got out of the car in the middle of Anchorage and just walked all the way past Westport Road and went to the movies and saw Underworld 2.
Wow.
Yeah, like big, like real talk, like just last year, I think it was either last year or the year before. We was driving off. I got off 64, pulled over in Hurstbourne, and just got off and walked all the way from 64 down Hurstbourne Parkway to Shelbyville Road. Went into Heisman Bakery, sat there, waited on the bus, and then like caught the bus and then walked the rest of the way home. It was ridiculous.
I
It was
think
just like,
the maddest I got in my life was with my ex,
mm,
where I was arguing with her and I got weaker but the louder I got, the more physically weak and ill I got talking to her. I was just like, I literally cannot continue this action anymore. I'm tired of arguing with her. I'm tired of fighting. There's only two ways this conversation is going to end. Either I'm going to stop talking by passing out, having a heart attack or something like that, or I'm going to kill her.
mm,
In each situation, I was like, neither one of these outcomes are what I really want to do. So it's
yeah,
a waste of my time. And like but that was like the angriest. That's the most I've ever argued with anybody. Period. Like
wow,
we literally argued all day long, and we argued like for hours, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
and I had to go to work the next day. I'm like, I get up at 5, so I'm like, and I got to the point where I was just like, you know what? One or two things are gonna happen in the next 30 seconds. Either I'm gonna get so weak that I'm just gonna literally die at this point arguing with this woman, or I'm gonna get so angry that I'm gonna reach over and choke her out of her life. Either one of these
okay,
situations would not be with her. Because my wife, the way my ex, the way she used to do stuff, and that's what I'm saying. Even like the angriest part about the Brianna's mom when I was with her was that she was almost like a smart aleck about everything.
I remember you saying something about that before.
Like she would literally say the most hurtful and mean thing to you and then laugh about it like it was a joke. Like for real. Like it would like to the point where I'd just be like, if you was a dude, I would knock you out. On concept. Like she told me one time, I told her, I can't argue with you anymore because my dad was in the hospital. And I was like, I need to go see what's going on with my father. I said, do you want to go with me? And she was like, for what? He ain't my daddy.
Wow.
And I looked at her like,
wow.
Literally, my dad was there for you when your dad got sick. And she literally looked at me and she said, I don't care. I don't care about your dad. I don't care about your mom. I don't care about how you feel right now.
Wow.
All I want for you to do is do what you think you need to do. And she used to have this little because she was like a valley girl, but she was raised that she wasn't raised nowhere near the hood, but she tried to put like a hood attitude about stuff. Whatever you want to do, and she started working her neck. I'm sitting there looking at her like, I could call my sister right now and she would body bag you in less than an hour. Keep talking to me. I used to tell her all the time, I'm going to call in an airstrike, and when I finally do it, you're going to be like, dude, you're going to realize just how serious I am about some of this stuff.
Wow.
I told her, it would get to the point, like, literally, I was like, I would be in the hospital, like, for 3 days because they thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was like, this woman literally makes me weaker talking to her.
Wow.
That's why I'm like, love your wife. Like I had to repent for days just explaining to her about why I don't want to be angry at her anymore. And that's bad. It was like, dude, and she still has that attitude. Like I got baptized, and her and Tanisha are sorority sisters.
Ugh.
And they work together. Like she works in the same office with Tanisha. But Tanisha was like, well, I'm so happy for Mike. Mike got baptized, him and Alana, and we're glad to see Bree and everything like that. And she said, oh, so Michael got baptized? She actually went to church? And she was like, yeah, she's been going to church for about a year now. And she turned and looked at this is what she told Tanisha. He ain't changed. And walked away from her like that. Like, I poop on everything you're saying right now.
Wow.
And I was like, dude. But no, seriously, let's get back to action. But I feel you about all the stuff, but I'll get back to action.
We'll need to kind of start segueing into wrapping it up because it's almost 11 and I gotta get sleep tonight. But yeah. So I feel like I'm on a good path. I think I know at least the direction I need to go, and I think with confidence, I should be able to get these last 5 pages squared away. Definitely in that 1 week to 2 week period we talked about. I mean, if I don't have this crap done by at least the weekend of Thanksgiving, I don't need to be doing this. Because I've got a little bit of time during work because we're slow season right now, and the fact that I got Thanksgiving and the day after off, I got some time there too. So, yeah, I'll have this weekend coming up, so we'll make it happen.
I'm working out with rehab. I'm on book again. I went back to book 3. I'm working on the second act because I was trying to explain how he got why he was breaking into that situation.
Okay.
So part 4, I'm in the opening act. I'm doing the epilogue on that. So I'm doing a little bit of both at the same time. I should have 5 and 6 done really quickly, but because I already know, I know the plotting. I know how I want each book. I want to know how each book is gonna work its way out. I know what I know what the whole action items for each one of the books are. The problem is writing the dialogue that fits into it.
Mm.
Like, you can look at the synopsis. The books are written. Act 1, they introduce this. Act 2, they introduce that. Conflict. Act 3, teaser, whatever, blah, blah, splash page.
Yeah.
That part was easy. Filling in the little details are going to be a problem. So, yeah. But yeah, like I said, I really need to finish up 3 just to get it finished and then to whittle it down once I get there. But I need to finish it now. 3 and 4 will be done. 5 and 6, I got to figure out if I'm going to make them just book 5 and book 6 or make book 5, 6, and 7. I got to decide how I'm going to break it up. Because I think the way the story is written is kind of jumbling together towards the end. And there's a piece that's missing that I need to connect it to make all of it tie in. So.
Yeah. Well, if you got to go more, remember, we don't have to do any particular even numbers or everything because we are planning on the stuff being digital. So.
Yeah. Part 3 is going to end with Malice basically takes on a disguise and puts himself in the room with Kenny and stuff to the point where he doesn't even know it. Like, all this time they've been chasing him around this building trying to figure out where he is, this, and this. And you realize by the end that he's been there the whole time.
Mm.
That all the stuff that you're seeing actually happening through the panels happened hours ago.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And that he's actually sitting in the room about to do whatever he was going to do. And it just so happens that he says something that makes Gollum decide to say, wait a minute. And he turns and he uses his power to kind of push him against the wall and arrest him. And he's like, finally, it's ironic that the Tin Man is able to find me. This. So then he's going to try to tell them, he's there to tell them a message that there's somebody that's claiming to have killed Ultiman. He's going to tell Kenny this because he knew he used to work with Ultiman.
That makes a lot more sense.
So when he comes in to tell him that, they look on the broadcast on the live feed, and the dude is hacked into the TV station saying, my name is the director, and this, and it says so. He kind of pulls the Bin Laden tape out. You know what
I really like that.
Yeah. So the next one is about the 4th page. The 4th after that one is like they're actually mobilizing what the strategy is going to be. So on one end, there's 3 different parts of that story. The first story is about them trying to convince the government that this is the right action to do the rehab group and put them back into action. And everybody's like, they're going back and forth about this and this and what we need to do. But at the end of the day, they approve the thing. So it's kind of like the political side of it. On the other hand, you have this backstage. They're getting ready for their first big outing as a group because they have to do a response. They basically realize about halfway through it, because you're wondering why are they doing this makeup and stuff and doing all this set change and all this stuff. Why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. By the end of that first part of the story, you realize that what they were doing was they were deciding that there needed to be a visible deterrent to the director and what he did. Okay. So they make like this special one-time event where it's almost like the State of the Union, but also it's kind of like introduction of this team. And they have the uniforms and everything on, and they're doing this and this, and you're seeing all the ugly stuff that went behind that.
That's nice.
So the next mission is going to be, the first mission is going to be for them to infiltrate this location. They think they found him, the director, and they infiltrate this base. When they get into the base, they find all these dead clones and like mutated bodies in this. Like, what the heck is really going on? So then, like, Gollum is talking to Trevor, and he's like, dude, these are not like throwaways, like monster features. These are actually people that are trying to test uh evolution of man, basically, kind of stuff.
Mm.
By the end of that, they break into the final part of the layer, and when they come in there, that's when the director's standing there, and he's got all the super soldiers behind him doing like this, and he's like, I've been waiting all day for this. So then the next meeting, like, welcome, come in. I've been waiting for you guys. I've been waiting for you guys to visit. So they all come in. They have this big fight, splash page, this, and this. There's a bunch of fight. People are getting hurt. Kind of like the last scene in the Avengers with Loki and this, and this. And they're doing all this stuff. And then just at the very end of it, he's going to be like, cut. And I'm like, cut? Like they have him surrounded and everything. They got the literally like you can literally see like Hawkeye's arrow about to go to Loki, and he's like, okay, cut.
Yeah.
What? Like cut. So then you see all the little super soldiers kind of drop down, just whatever's still alive is still like they just drop down, and then like Kenny and all those guys come out and like. They explain what really happens. And like Trevor, they're like, you don't understand. You're already heroes. What we just did was we gave you a award. Everybody's going to see you as heroes except for I don't. Trimmer's going to be like, I don't see myself as a hero. But you are. You saved a bunch of people. Think what would have happened, the panic and chaos that would have happened if these people really still felt like there were supervillains out there that could actually hurt them. By you giving them something to believe in, you literally gave them a reason not to worry. You are a hero. And they have the PR guy trying to talk to him and this, and this. And he explained all the whole situation. Trimmer's like, I quit. Bottom line, he just said, out. He says, so what you going to do? He said, I quit.
That's like, good. That's good character conflict because he knows he killed Ultiman and they're building him up to be this big hero. It's like, how can I be this hero and then hold this secret, you know?
Yeah. He's basically like, nah, we did all this stuff thinking that we were actually absolving ourselves of what we did as people. And the reality was it was all fake. You just used us and our own emotions to convince us to be part of this scam to keep everybody else doing this. They basically did the same thing with the American people. You just did it on a larger scale. The only difference is we actually were participating in this whole thing like it was actually real. So he like quits. And then by the time they get to the second part of the story, which is the second part, the Survivor story, we're gonna see that the team has literally disbanded. They just left. And like Kenny's trying to figure out what happened to them. At the same time, we introduced the Salasia. Because honestly, the Salasia are the guys that are right behind everything. And I want to kind of introduce them as power brokers at first. You kind of think of them like they're the unseen hand that's actually been manipulating and puppeteering everything.
Okay.
But it turns out they actually are actively controlling everything, really. Like there's no unseen hand. So the illusion is that they're doing it from a position of clandestine. They're actually a supervillain group that actually has no problem with running the world. Whatever it takes. Like they literally will, when they find out the Salasia is basically like Gollum used to be a member of the Salasia. Malice was asked to be part of the Salasia, and he worked as one of the perfect people for the Salasia. So you find out that's how they knew each other, and they were like this, literally like the Legion of Doom back in the day, basically took over the whole world.
Okay.
So it's gonna be like the reason why they're so clandestine now is because it's just an image thing. It's so much easier to run the world when people look at you in a business suit. And the nefarious purple and gold mask. So I want to talk about the real enemy of the world is not this director dude. the real enemy of the world was the Silesia from day one, and like I want to kind of hint at that with by Ultiman finding out that there was the Silesia back in this time.
Oh, okay.
He creates the Sentinels to try to fight against them, never realizing that by that time the Silesia had already worked his way into all the world governments and economic systems. So it was kind of like he was trying desperately, and over the years he loses a lot of heroes and friends from his team, and he doesn't know they all get killed mysteriously.
Okay.
And he's basically like, Silesia took him out, and after a while the government's like, yeah, Ultiman, you might be a little, you may need to, they asking for like evaluations and stuff like that, and they asked like Mr. Major Mental to actually evaluate him, and he's like, there's nothing wrong with him, but there's something wrong with you too. So by the end, Ultiman is literally the only hero on the planet. The government is only keeping him around because it's easier. They built him up to a point where they have to keep him.
Yeah.
So Ultiman like gets totally bitter and angry, and he just gets to the point where he's like, crime is bad. I'm just gonna wipe out all the crime. I have the power to change this, and I can wipe out all the crime.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really, because he really doesn't know who's the real bad guys anymore.
Gotcha.
Some of these dudes walking around me are really my bad guys. So there's this whole thing I want to do later on where I want to work about how these characters deal with who they are now. After they're outed as this superhero group, do they really feel that they're heroes? And,
yeah.
I want to do that. But yeah, man, that's really the goal.
That sounds good, man. I mean, it sounds like you got it all solid. It just sounds like it might just be a challenge to just sit down and do it.
Yeah, that's the challenge, and that's really.
Yeah. But I definitely gotta get off of here, man. I'm starting to fall out.
Man.
I gotta get some things together. So let's check back in a couple of days to a week or so, and let's just try to keep that goal of being where we. I don't even remember what your goal was, but I know I gotta write these 5 pages. So.
My goal is to have all 7 of them written so we can edit them by the time of December.
Okay.
Well, I want to do it before the end of this month for real. So.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I can get that.
I'd love to sit down and just me and you edit it, and then maybe even get someone else involved. But yeah, man, let me dive off of here, get my stuff ready for work, and I'm gonna crash. So.
All right, hey, I recorded this whole thing, so.
Cool.
If you want to ever look back on it, I'll give you the link to YouTube, and you can kind of check it out.
That's word. All right, man.
All right, be easy.
Thanks.
Bye.